All right, guys, what's going on? Bench Racing Podcast with BRODIE ZAPPIA, enemy of all big block chefs. How are you doing
Yeah, no, not too bad. Just going along.
after your long drive from work
Today. Hour and 15 minutes and shit traffic.
Damn.
Love the traffic on the Kwinana Freeway, along with a few little crashes and stuff in there.
That's it.
But first of all, we've got to introduce you and how you started your racing career is what we like to do on the podcast. How did you kick off your drag racing and what got you started in the sport? It's probably not that hard of a question, but...
Yeah, well, I started going to the track just watching Uncle John race when I was, I'd say 2 or 3. I started going and just developed a love for the sport. Ended up getting a junior at 8 and raced all the way through until 16. Ended up winning 3 state championships and a national championship along the way.
Yep.
And yeah, just from there, raced my uncle's ute. Did a couple of meetings in that before we bought the Camaro and started in super sedan in that.
And what was the setup in the ute that you stepped into? You did a few whoop-ass Wednesdays and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I licensed at a whoop-ass Wednesday. That was a 416 cube LS3, weighed about 3,000 pounds, turbo 400.
Yep.
So that ran 976, I think my best was. So that was good first step out of juniors.
Yeah.
Then moved into the Camaro December that year. So I was 17 at the time. That's got a 572 cube big block Chev, naturally aspirated, run on ethanol.
Yep.
Just a bit of fun. Run 850, 844. I think the best was that I went.
Yep.
So that was my first like real chassis car, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then from there we've taken that big block and turned that into the now Procharger big block that's in it now in Outlaws.
Why Procharger over the conventional blower?
It was more so for a cost reason. You could, like, my blower kit was $8,000 with the blower, with the carby, all the charge pipes, the bracketry, pulleys, belts, everything combined was $8,000. You just had to then make the motor like handle it. Then you go to a conventional blower, you got to try and buy a blower and a manifold, whereas I was able to put a carby right on my old manifold.
Exactly.
It was just mainly cost and ease of. Like, it just fit straight on the front. Took the radiator off from super sedan and put that straight in its place, and everything worked.
Damn, lucky the rules ended up how they were, and you were able to put that on there. It's just it's
pretty strategic by a set of people that put that proposal in place.
That was just really lucky that ended up like that. But yeah, like you say, it's expensive now to buy blowers. Like, you're looking at for a D series, it's over $25,000 just to get the blower. And
for like a 1471 or a 1671, you can see someone on Facebook with manifolds for like 12 to 14 grand. Yeah, that's before the fuel system, before the injector hat. Like, there's so much other stuff that goes into it. Whereas mine came with everything for $8,000. It was purely a cost. Reason. Otherwise, it'd have a D screw blower on there all day of the week.
Yeah, of course. Look cool as sound. Well, the Procharger does sound cool. I'll admit it's a very different sound, very distinctive when it starts up behind the wall. And
I guess to be the first one in Australia as well to come out in Outlaws under the new rules.
Yep.
But to do it with a belt and with a carby rather than with EFI and
crank drive like
everyone expected. It was just something unique as well.
It's your own setup.
It's definitely your own setup, and that was cool to see. And out there with your big 12-inch spacer plate on you. How many inches is it? Is it 12?
No, it's a 4-inch block with a 1-inch super sucker on top, so 5-inch off the manifold total.
Damn,
it's up there, dude.
Should have just left it down.
Anyway,
offensive.
On to the next question. Is racing Uncle John's current car, in the plan?
I'd have to say I hope so. The plan at the moment is to put a Hemi in the Camaro for next year and race comp, and from there we'll just kind of see how we go. It's definitely in the pipeline that I'm going to race John's old car, ZAPS RAT, the steel-bodied car.
Yep.
But whether I jump into Crusher or not, we're not too sure.
We'll
see when the time comes.
Or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the you said you're putting a Hemi in the Camaro.
Yep.
Is that what, like, what are you going to do to make it accept? Is there something you have to do to make it accept the Hemi, or?
Yeah, well, at the moment, it's got a mid plate that's further forward than the firewall, so we're going to move it all back to the firewall and do it how most like Pro Mod style cars are set up, with the engine plate on the firewall. So we're better weight distribution, all of that type of thing. So yeah, got to make engine plates, going to completely take out the firewall, take out the trans tunnel, all the flooring and tin works pretty much got to be redone. Just yeah, lots of work to be done to the car to allow it to accept it. And we're also going to twin frame rail the car as well, give it a little bit more structure through the center. And we should probably put a funny car cage in there while we're at it.
So you got a lot of pipe work to put in there. Yeah. I did sit in it at the last meet, and it was different. I've never sat in a single frame rail car before, and it just felt weird. Like
there's so much room.
Yeah, no funny car cage, no second frame rail. I was like, wow, this is just it felt naked in there.
It's definitely comfortable, but I doubt you'd be saying that if you were to hit something. So I've been lucky that we haven't had any issues with it so far, but it's definitely getting to the pointy end of being able to handle the power it's got now. So it's definitely due for a twin frame rail or something of the sort to try and stop that torsional
Otherwise,
twist.
it's just going to keep turning into a banana, lap after lap. You reckon it's going to add much weight to the
I reckon what we'll lose taking the iron block out of it and all the extra stuff that we've got and going the aluminium billet block or cast block or whatever we end up going with. I think it'll pretty much even itself out. By the time we put all the pipe work in, what we've lost we'll gain. So it'll be around the same. I reckon we'll be looking at around the 2650 mark.
Zoomies?
Yeah, I'd have to say so.
That's what I'm talking about. That'd be cool. Different sound as well with the zoomies, and mate, I don't know if there'd be even a weight difference, but they'd probably be pretty similar.
Probably not. I wouldn't be able to use my pipes anyway.
No, of course, On the note of not being able to use stuff off of that engine, have you been contacted by GM at all about your activities against big block chevs? Or how much damage are you running at used parts or scrappers yard
Absolute hate crime
out of ZAPS RAT racing?
No, unfortunately I haven't. It'd be pretty good if I did, but if you haven't already put your stocks into GM, you probably should, because they've been making a bit of money this year. The engine troubles we've had, we were plagued by oil pump issues and oiling issues in November.
At the start of the season.
That was the third meeting in the final against Casey when I couldn't front. And then from there, we put another crank in it, another set of rods in it, and got it rebuilt in those 2 weeks, only for it to come out and run 2 laps on assembly lube before it kicked the rod and the burnout in the next pass. And then from there, it was that motor was junk. It had kicked a rod, cracked the block, hole in the sump, and then that piston had spun around and smashed all the valves, which has then gone the whole way back down the valve train, smashed the lifters, push rods, rockers, and the cam. So everything was junked in that motor. So everything had to come out, brand new motor.
I got to stop you there. I hate to ask, but do you have a rough
idea on what it cost
on those 2 meetings?
Those 2 meetings, the first one to the second one wasn't too bad. It was probably about $2.5 grand in the extra rods we needed plus the crank. From the December meeting coming into January, that was probably around the 25 grand mark just to come back out in those 4 weeks.
Damn.
So it's so that's like over 30 grand worth of gear damage, not including your hours because you put it all together yourself.
So that was lucky. That was probably, that was every day from the Golden States up until the 6th of January. And even on the 6th of January when we raced it, we didn't get there until the compulsory because we were still building it that morning. Multiple all-nighters, multiple pull apart, put it back together, change something around, or have parts show up last minute and change combos, because it originally had steel rods. It wasn't until the Thursday before the meeting that the aluminium rods came in, and we had the crank ready balance for aluminium rods. So then we had to clearance. Why didn't
you stay with the steel rods? I heard they're pretty good for supercharged combos.
Or it was just Uncle John's recommendation. He just last minute called up CP and got some rods sent over. We already had the steel rods sitting there, but they were worth more, and he just doesn't trust the steel rods. Is just from what happened before and what he's heard from pro stock guys in the States about bearings that they run, and we didn't have any bearings in time, so it was just what he thought was the best thing to do.
Yeah, it's definitely the better move with high horsepower, supercharged combos. The shock absorption of a alley rod is way better than a steel rod. I think you have better chance of of wrecking stuff.
And like it went perfectly fine with the steel rods for the first couple of meetings. The steel rods weren't the issue. It was just while we were there, why not put them in rather than have to get the crank rebalanced later on to do it again. So it was just last minute decision and seemed to pay off.
Were you thinking that the alley rods were going to be a thing that you needed to do anyway at some point? Like if you were to step the power up, were you going to have to do that anyway? It was just sort of like while we're here.
Yeah, the reason that we went steel rods in the first place was time. When we were looking at ordering rods, there was 12 weeks to the first meeting, and it was 12-week wait, and we're like, no, we're not doing that. So steel rods
12
was the
weeks
decision.
turns into 15 weeks.
Yeah,
sort of thing.
And we had 12 weeks till we were racing, so it was, no, we'll just put steel rods in it, and we were initially planning to dumb it down and run it a bit slower like we did.
Yep.
But then when we were there and the rods were available, we were able to get them within a week and a half, I think it took to get here.
Yep.
So then the choice was made and just got them sent over and put them in. So then it was done and didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah. So then after that, you throughout the season, you had a few more issues. Not last meet, but the Western. How did you go to the Western Nationals? You had.
So we put a new, more aggressive cam in it from Crow Cams, and that helped us pick up a 1/10.5 it was over the meeting before. So that worked really well. We'd also been in the process of putting bigger push rods in it, putting more spring pressure on it. But the one thing we didn't adjust was the lifters. They stayed the same as what we had in it before, just some cheap needle roller.
And they're lifters. Not 904?
No, 842 standard size. So we're putting a lot of pressure. We were spinning it. Instead of $8,000, we were going to 9. We were just turning everything harder, and it just seems that and the valves were lofting as well off the cam, so it was just everything was against it. It lasted 4 full power passes before it just decided nah, and the whole bottom section of the lifters just broke off. Happened to 6 individual lifters on intake and exhaust. So that just junked everything. Sent parts of lifter into the sump. Got hit by the crank. All the rods look like they've been hit by a shotgun. Like,
and the needles, they go everywhere. They get on the cam.
Yeah, so the cam lobes copped a pretty big hit, so that good cam had to come back out. But luckily, the cam that we'd broken in December had just come back from Crow Cams the Friday before, so we were able to put that back in the car. I had another set of lifters at the workshop that we were able to put in, so we were going through and trying to do the minimum that we could. Once we'd pulled the sump off, I saw dents in the bores, and I was like, we should probably pull everything out and give it a hone. So then it turned into pretty much a full motor rebuild, bar the crank coming out. And it took all night and all morning and up until 2:32, I think it was, we got the car running, and 2:36 was when we were on track up against Cliff. So it was a push, but in the end, it was cam, lifters, and everything else was all right. It just needed a clean and a touch up and get all the particles and parts out.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like you'll know from doing it when you wreck something like that. The first time you pull the filter back out, it's just like it looks like you've blown it up again. There's so much stuff in the filter. You just have to get that first startup out of the way. Yeah,
and with the dry sump now, it's a lot better. Like we were able to get most of the stuff out of the pump and out of the lines. The sump was cleaned out really well, so we didn't actually see too much material in the filter from that, which was good. And then after the second run, we saw nothing in the filter, so it all pretty much got out after the first run, which is good. I
think you already touched on the carby thing, but someone did ask why is it that you've stuck with the carby over going to, say, MFI, which is more of not easier, but it's more well-known in the Outlaws field sort of thing?
Again, it's just because it came with the kit that we bought. We were able to get in touch with RaceMax Direct and Advanced Product Design, APD, and they actually came on board and sponsored me a carby, seeing as the one that we got with the kit we found out to be an ethanol carby the hard way. So got the APD on there, and they've been awesome help. And from there, we've actually put a hybrid mechanical system on, just to help with.
There's kids going nuts out there, by the way.
That'd be better.
Yeah. So we put a hybrid mechanical system on there to actually help with distribution, as we're getting real fat in the middle and the back 2 cylinders were
So
quite
how,
lean.
for people at home,
Yeah.
how does that work with it? So running a carby as well as a mechanical injection, how does that work?
So we've got an Edelbrock nitrous solenoid on the back of our fuel log, which we've got hooked up to our yellow grid wire from the MSD grid, which is the shift light.
Yep.
So I've just set the shift light at the RPM that I want the system to come on. So then when you see on the AFRs that it starts to go lean, the system will turn on, and pretty much it just feeds the fuel straight from the log at pressure through to the distribution block. And then I've just got a few mechanical nozzles in the manifold at the ports, and it just helps deliver that extra fuel. It's only low pressure, seeing as it's regulated, but it's helped a lot. Like, we've been able to put a bigger pulley on it, and all the plugs are coming out still like they're brand new. When before we had the 2 at the back were looking like they're a good tune up, and the rest of them could go back in the box. So
it's just like a high speed, just for a
that's it.
For a carby, really. What else we got here? What's it like having the Zappia name and such a, like, you see your car it's really Zappia. It's got sponsors all over it, which it should. And is that like a big, not so stress thing, but does it make you feel like you have to do good, or you have to get results?
It's definitely added that sense of pressure to perform. I definitely don't think I would have spent all that money over the December-January break to get another motor in the car if I didn't have all those sponsors
100%.
that I did. Because obviously they're all expecting me to be out on track every meeting. We've given them a calendar, said we're going to be here on
here and here.
X, Y, Z, and you don't show up. They're kind of like, hang on, why didn't you go there? So it was a decision that I made based on the fact that I've got all those sponsors, and the support that they've shown me through the whole period when I was blowing everything up and trying to like climb my way back to the top, having a couple dollars to my name, just trying to get through that period. They've been really understanding, which has been great. And my main priority is to get out on track for them, to show them the exposure that they deserve, because they put in a lot for me. So that's my priority, is to get out there and just be on track. The performance side of things with the last name, I guess there is a lot of pressure to perform from that aspect, because I've got obviously the website and the Facebook page and everything pumping me up, and I've got a lot to look forward to, but I have to perform to get there. I'm not just going to be handed everything like everyone seems to think. It's all going to be a lot of hard work to try and get where I want to get, and the opportunity's there. I just need to put in the work and go out and grab it. So
and I think that's, a lot of people do have that wrong sort of perception of you, that you do get everything handed to you, and you do get a lot, not given stuff, but it's like everything's easier for you from John.
People just think you're ZAPS RAT.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
well, you are, but but like, people do think that you just get given stuff, and it's just so not like that. We've seen it firsthand, that how hard you work and how committed you are to the sport, and you don't deserve to be like profiled like that. That you are like a golden child sort of thing.
Yeah, and in a way they're right that it is a bit easier for me. Like, I've got my uncle's workshop that I have access to, all his tools and his knowledge and everything that he's done over his 40 years of racing. I've pretty much got right there with me. So it's definitely a big help, and it has been easy for me to get where I've wanted to get. And I think that shows in the results of the car going down the track. First time it saw the track, and winning my first meeting when we had no data on the car, and that was all because I had that head start. But I think he's still not the one pushing the loud pedal and letting go of the button.
But I think that saying it's easy it's like very situational. Like, what seems easy to you is probably not easy to someone else. It's probably really hard. So I think people just see it and go, oh, this guy's got it easy, and you're sort of like, oh, I got it pretty easy too, but that's just because
I've got that opportunity, and you'd be stupid if you had that opportunity sitting there and you just went, oh no, I'm not gonna, I'm good, I'll do it myself. Like no,
or I'll wait till you want to actually give me the ride in the big car until you can't drive, and I'll just roll in the chopper and hop in it. But you're actually doing the hard yards and putting your money on the line and putting your body on the line, really, just
that's it. Just
every week,
else.
the hours and hours you put in, it's
shouts out to Lockie too. He's in the shed with Brodie on them late nights.
for sure. I'm always seeing Lockie and Brodie posting up crazy late night, 4 a.m. building the car and
back the next day at work or TAFE or wherever.
I think the first time I got a video off you was before last meet. I got a video that you were ready a day before the meeting. I just couldn't believe it.
What was it? Friday night we had it being loaded into the trailer and we were at the track and got everything set up and we were all good to go.
You'd have been in shock.
Yeah, well, it just proved that we weren't really that ready, wasn't it?
Well, that's all just racing, eh? It's like sometimes you think you're prepared and it just doesn't go your way.
It was good. After the Westerns, it was just kind of look over everything and put another brand new set of lifters in it so that it had a good set of bush lifters rather than the needle rollers that were in it, and just make it survive the rest of the season.
For sure. What caused you to make? Obviously, it's a natural progression, but what made you make that step to Outlaws in the first place?
Initially, I was meant to just take the restrictor out from under the carby and race Top Sportsman. That was the original plan.
Which you were already, did you not race in Top Sportsman a few times? You were only in Super Sedan?
No, I was in Super Sedan. We took the restrictor out for a test day and just went to the 8th mile to try and see what it would kind of run, and it didn't go that much faster, and it was then that I was like, all right, let's look for some more power somewhere else. We were expecting it to be like a 770 car, but it was running like, it would have run like an 830 or an 829 or something, so it just wasn't that much different. So it was like, all right, let's find something else. I looked at all avenues like nitrous and a cheap Aeroflow turbo or whatever, but at the end of the day, it was all going to come back down to you still got to build the motor the same, you still got to put the floater in it if you're going to run 750, so all the same money was going to be spent.
Didn't matter.
We might as well go down a blown route somehow, and the cheapest blown route was Procharger.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got another one here. Nick Pullier, he posted a very silly comment. He said, when are you going forward power? Because obviously you've thrashed out all the Chevys, but
I'll probably go on forward power. It depends. These Coyotes are going all right.
They are. The Coyotes are pretty good. That's a cool combo.
Might be a good scene to double C one day, but
it's a funny thing. Me and Connor have been talking about the same thing recently.
It's almost like, that's that combo. If anyone gets a hold of one, and really put some effort.
I'd be lying if I didn't say we haven't already looked into it, but then it was just like, what's the point? You spend all this money to go and run 2 classes, and then you either try and sell it or have it sit in your shed or race it forever.
Yeah, and we had that same convo the other day about the same sort of thing. So,
but no, we probably won't be going forward power, but
I don't think a Ford would know what to do if it didn't have carbies on it anyway. So
that's it.
it'd just freak out.
Just put blow through on it.
Yeah. Dude, don't get me started on blow throughs. You already know how much I hate your thing. I think Bailey had one more question, but we already answered that about plans for next season and car and stuff. Is there any sponsors or news or anything?
Or is there anything you want to talk about?
Anything you want to drop
leading into the new season?
Oh, new season, really. I've already kind of said what's going on. Putting the Hemi in the car, going turbo 400 instead of the Power Glide. So I've already got one organised and should be on its way soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
And the only thing that really depends on next year is the amount of cubes in that Hemi that we put in the car. So that's what we're still looking into, is whether we slot into whether we come and give you a run for your money, or whether we stay in AA, or what the plan is. But
I want the smoke from that little small block, I'll tell you.
We'll see how we go.
You don't want it.
This is the next season. So that'll be cool.
Left, right, and centre.
I can't wait to run you next season in comp, because I know that's where you're going to be no matter what. Just depends what what class you pick and
Yeah,
where you want to slot
see.
into. You'll do well no matter what, I think. So we're actually headed to get our new car tomorrow. Me and Dad are shipping off at around lunchtime to
And Mum.
Mum.
That'll be a good little trip.
That'll be interesting with Mum instead of just Dad and the boys.
Any guesses on what the car is yet? Any
HQ Manara. Yeah. It's not going to be too long of a trip down to Bibra Lake. I will swap the Tirana over with the HQ, and Brodie's going to have his new ride for next season.
Yep, he's going to keep it green, Uncle John.
Yeah, good luck getting it in the truck or in the shop. You have to run a car cover over it the whole time.
Yeah, pretty much. Car cover until it's in my trailer, and then we'll be right.
Yeah, and then you have to put a sight screen up in the pit so you can't see it. All right, it's been cool. Thanks for coming on, and
Thanks for having me.
Good chat. We'll have you back on some point.
And there you go. That's going to be one of our shortest episodes. BRODIE ZAPPIA, when you ask him one question, he just blurts out a whole bunch of stuff and answers the next question for you. So
yeah.
So get around him, sponsors. He's pretty good on the old lips.
Yeah. All right, guys. Cheers.